One of the really wonderful things about being part of this group Thank you. Okay. One of the wonderful things about being part of this group is the way you talk to each other.
When we should.
No, I'm serious. It's very, very important that, number one, we know that we exist as Democrats here, or as progressives, yes, even as disaffected Republicans. Welcome all. This is a place of belonging. It's a place of connecting friendships. This thing has to be in my face.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. It's really weird for me. I'm eating this thing, and I would rather have another piece of that good food, but I've got to eat this microphone instead. However, this... etc. So I wanted to say welcome everybody. If you haven't figured out who I am, I'm Jeff Hoy. I'm the county chair here, and we say welcome to one and all who walk through that door or try to connect to us in any way. This is a place of belonging, and we're glad that you're here to belong today. And as we are here, our theme of the day is hope in the time of darkness. But of course, we have some things to deal with in terms of just regular housekeeping kinds of things. Particularly if you're new to the office, there are two specialized facilities, and they're not labeled men and women. They just have the same facilities in both of them. There's one door, and the other one's on the other side as well. That's important as well. A few announcements, I think, to make. I want to remind you that just as last month we had the chair of the state party with us, we have one of her employees right over here, Mackenzie Reedy Bacon. Mackenzie is our resource in doing things, and she's called a regional organizing, organizing director. Yeah, so somehow or another, she's the lightning rod for everything around here. Okay, and she's very helpful to me as I need to put things together with boat builder and stuff of that nature. So as we start, I think we have enough room to sing "It's a Grand Old Flag," and then, last month it was so jammed in here that we couldn't even stand up to do the pledge, but I think we can do that today. So if you can take a break from eating, and let's sing Where's My Cohort in musical ability. Linda, come on up here. We'll lead you in singing "It's a Grand Old Flag." She'll be here in a minute. And the song sheets are on your table, so find "It's a Grand Old Flag."
Until it's destroyed by somebody.
I didn't realize it was on the back of that.
Okay, I think we can stand for the song, and then followed by the pledge.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, every evening wave. You're the emblem of the land of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a verse so grand. But you know the acquaintance we forgot. Keep your eye on the grand old flag.
yourselves a hand. You are good. And the flag's on the wall over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Just a few announcements. Next month, our speaker will be Alyssa Harris, who's the director of the Department of Health Services here in Rowan County, bringing us up to date on the health conditions here in our county. This is the year when I try to bring in people to explain to us exactly what's going on here. How healthy are we? How economically healthy are we? In May, we'll have Rod Kreider, the president of the Economic Development Council here. So that's the kind of thing that we're working on. And I've been trying to get a date scheduled, and she's going to be here, but it's finding the date, and that's the superintendent of schools. Now, all of these events, all of these programs are heavily dependent and interdependent with federal aid. So this is something that we need to be aware of, stay up to date on, and that's why I'm bringing these people in to be our speakers. Senior Dems on the third Tuesday this month, our focus will be on Social Security. And again, these crazy people in Washington who think that AI could run everything and get rid of every reference to gay, including the Enola Gay. Oh, golly. And anyhow, by the end of my talk this morning, we will be focusing on precinct organization, organizing on smaller levels and smaller groups around the county. And leaders of those groups, many of them are here this morning, and some of the rest of you who aren't yet leaders of those groups will become those leaders. You just didn't know when you walked in the door this morning, because we are all being called to stand up for democracy. And that's the kind of thing that we need to do, and we need to do together. And those precinct meetings, the meetings of smaller groups throughout the county, will be the last 2 weeks here in March, and you will find out those dates as those leaders set those dates and get that information to all of you. So, are there any other announcements that we need to share? There's a guy walking around with a camera, and he just went to go hide in the corner, but he's got a big mouth, so I can just call on him to explain what this missing banner is over here on the bulletin board. And I'll let Scott do the talking on this. Scott, can you come and explain who is missing here in District 6? I don't even know. I was talking with the leader of Lutheran Social Services of the Carolinas on Thursday morning, and I said, well, he's obviously over a whole lot of nursing homes, etc., and very concerned about, federal aid being cut. But I said, well, you've got to be on the phone to Addison McDowell. And he said, who's that?
Well, good morning, Democrats. It's so good to see y'all here this morning. Look, it's really interesting how we got here, but we have learned over the last couple of weeks which direction we're going. And I don't think anybody in this room is for that direction. So we've got to fight back. We've got to use every arsenal in our tool. And the best weapon we could ever use is attacking the thin skin of these Republicans. That sign right there goes up on I-40 and I-74, where about 100 and some thousand people every day are going to see this sign. We've already contacted the press. We did a press statement, and in that press statement, we talked about a couple things. One, he he's refusing to hold a town hall. When I called his office, I introduced myself. I wanted to know when the congressman was going to hold a town hall, and they immediately went into this whole story about, well, we have a limited staff, and it's really hard to set up these events and all these things. So guess what? We're doing the work for them. That way, they just got to show up. So I'm working on 3 dates during the recess session. As soon as I have that date confirmed, you guys will see an update on my Facebook page, my Twitter account, my TikTok, everything on social media that I use.
And the local Democrats.
And the local, yes, of course.
No social media.
Well,
Somewhere else.
well, if you want,
you'll get it.
yeah, you'll get it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Anyway, I picked a middle ground up in Lexington at a brewery that is very friendly, very welcoming to anybody who wants to come in and have a meeting. We'll let the congressman know where we will be. Supposedly, he's supposed to have an office in Lexington, but they refuse to give me the address. So that really kind of irked me, because when I ran for Congress, I was talking about having a mobile office to go to all these counties because the Republicans in their infinite wisdom drew the district so damn big so they could gerrymander it.
Yeah.
So, I was going to have an RV that we could drive around. People could come meet us at a food line or a grocery store, Piggly Wiggly, whatever, and talk and meet their congressman. But this guy, for whatever reason, is afraid. He has a gerrymandered district for him that let him win. And, of course, he was a Ted Budd staffer, and Ted Budd refused to debate me during Congress. Dan Bishop ran out of a meeting room where we just happened to be at the same time, backdoor Dan, and, he didn't like that. But we've got to hit them because they're all thin-skinned. When you deal with a bully, you don't throw your punches at that bully walking backwards. Okay?
Yes.
So we're hitting him hard. We're going to make him do his job for us. He ran to serve the people, not serve a fat ass in the White House. And we're going to use that kind of language. Okay, I'm a sailor. We can tell some really good sea stories, but the truth hurts, and they don't like it. So we're going to show that we have strength in the Democratic Party. We're going to show that we have resolve. Because let me tell you a couple things. One thing that people do is they get anxious about the future. And that's where we're at right now. They get reminiscent about the past, and that's why they think it's better to go back there. No, none of those things work. The only thing that's going to work is our resolve. Our resolve to fight this rise of Nazism in our country. Our resolve to fight the white supremacists. And our resolve to protect our friends and neighbors and community. All of y'all are my friends and neighbors. And that sign is giving everybody in our district hope that we're going to start throwing punches and not walking backwards. So I went ahead and paid for that, $1,500. I was surprised that Adams Outdoor Services would actually let me run a sign since he's in bed with Trump. But hey, we got it up there. So it'll be up there for 30 days. So if you guys want to help me out, $25, $10, whatever you got is great. I don't expect it. But what I expect is your hope and desire to fight this. So are you guys with us?
Yes.
Because we're going to win this. We're going to fight these guys. We're not going to let them do it. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you give your phone number and people can sell you?
Well, it's right there on the damn billboard, 980-500-1106.
Okay, and you can sell you money so you can keep.
Well, no, you can't sell money to that. That's just if you want to call the missing congressman hotline.
No,
Yeah, my number is 704-996-0730.
And you can sell them money to keep it up.
Well, we're going to just stick with 30 days because what other money we get from that, I want to make sure it goes to this town hall we're going to have up in Lexington. I better see every one of y'all there.
Yeah.
Okay, I've already talked to Kathy Manning. She said she would come, and once I give her the date, I've talked to Willie Nickel. I've talked to, he's running for District 9 against Mark Harris, the Reverend who tried to steal Dan McCready's election. Yeah, he's a former airborne major, retired, real great guy. I'm going to try to get him to that as well. So stay tuned.
Yes.
I'm going to build on Scott's message. There is an activist event, if you will, underfoot. It's sponsored by Red, Wine, and Blue by 50-50-01. to send a postcard to the president on March 15th. Some of you may have seen it on Facebook. It's an easy thing to do. A postcard and a stamp and a message. Whatever your message is, without profanity. We didn't elect you. I don't like what you're doing with Social Security. I don't like what you're doing with housing or healthcare or whatever it is. I am not with you. The purpose isn't, we're pretty sure it's not going to change his mind, but it will bring attention. You get 1 million postcards, you can't really keep that secret, you know? And he needs to know there are a bunch of us out here who do not approve of what's going on. It's an easy way. So get a postcard.
Somebody sent me, actually a friend in New York, was sort of circulating this thing. But I have the whole information thing and the link and all that. Maybe I can get that to Geoffrey and he can send that
That would be
out.
great.
Would that be helpful?
And maybe we could do a postcard writing party here. You know, have a bunch of postcards and bring your stamp and we'll write messages and, you know, send 100 postcards from the Democratic office here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, this is Mary Miller James, and where are you? Pam is right over here. Pam will be getting out information if you get emails from us. They're coming from Pam as well as Karen Puckett, and so we can get this information spread by email. And Andy, where are you? And Andy does our what is that? Our X and Twitter and Instagram, and you're on Reddit too. You know, so this information can get spread in various different ways, and you know, you're the regional director of this kind of stuff. Can you see to it that the other counties in your 17 county group hear about this and get their act together as well?
Yeah.
This is called networking, okay? Let's hear it for you all. It's one of the really good things about coming together and being here together. Now, we need people like Scott to... Scott is a good bull in the china shop, and he says, let's go, and whammo, you're going, okay? And we need that kind of level. Not everybody here is a Scott, okay? I know that. You know that. But each one of us brings who we are to the current time when we have to have hope in this time of darkness, okay? But we each bring who we are in our own way. Now, for me, this is rather personal. I hope it's personal for you too. How do we maintain hope? I'm wearing a little necklace that my wife got for me a long time ago when I was in graduate school, and about every other paper that I was writing was about hope. So she finally up and found this thing and bought it for me and wrapped it around my neck. But I think this is the kind of thing that we need to live with. But let me be honest with you in a very personal kind of way. Just because I can speak about hope and celebrate the kind of campaigning that Scott does, and some of the rest of you as well, I didn't start here. When I think of hope, I remember all the times when I felt hopeless and helpless. And probably the most significant experience of that in my life was 73 years ago. As a 9-year-old boy, on a winter night, I watched our big farm home burn down. And the fire department ran out of water. And a 13-room house became ashes. So the first place that I start when I think about how do we maintain hope, I remember all those times, and you probably had them in your lives too, various different ways, when we felt hopeless and maybe helpless. And then along came, some of you are teachers, and you know what adverse childhood experiences are, awful things that happen to kids when they're young, which really make life difficult for them growing up. There's a list of 10 that they check off when they try to help people self-understand. There was someplace between 5 and 6 on that list. So I have built in a good foundation, strong foundation, of kind of a mild depression that runs all through my life. And so my hope has become so important to me. It counteracts all that negativity. And each one of us has our own little tape of telling us we can't do this, we can't do that, we're not going to get around to it. How did I get through it? People cared about who I was. After our house burnt down, they had a big neighborhood gathering, and they collected all kinds of pots and pans and clothes and stuff, because we lost just about everything. And my grade school teacher, it was a 2-room school, so I had her for grades 2, 3, and 4. She very specially marked the box with a feather bed in it. Some of you probably don't even know what a feather bed is. It's a big, huge pillow that you put on top of your mattress because it's too hard or lumpy. She cared about who I was. And yes, I used that feather bed on top of my bed, as I was growing up, and I even took it along to college with me. And I tell that story today. Now, can you be a person like my teacher, Mrs. Erber, and reach out and care for someone to build positive hope into their life? There are other women that have affected me, how I got to where I am right here. And each one of us has our story. And we have to build on our story so that we're ready to go ahead with this message of hope that we have. But we have to understand and recognize that there are those dark spots or places within our own lives that need light as well. The people who carried me through, well, that teacher, and others along the way who cared about who I was. Do that inventory yourself. Who cared about you to get you where you are today? Might have been very traditional, specific kinds of ways. Might have been in very interesting, unique kinds of ways. But then how did I get here? Well, I was this retired pastor who just gave up my whole role and identity, because for 40 years my first name was Pastor. It was, okay? And so how did I find my way here in Salisbury, in Rowan County? Well, somebody named Ruby said, "You look like a leader to me. Will you run for president of the Senior Democrats?" Thank you, Ruby. She's not here this morning. She's not here this morning, but Nan Lund, many of you know Nan Lund, okay? But back in 2010, she ran the Democratic office, and I said, "What do you want me to do?" She handed me a stack of papers stapled together and said, "Go ring these doorbells and talk to them, and here's some stuff you can give them." And I said, I've never done this before. But I had rung doorbells to say, "Where do you go to church? Would you like to come to mine?" Most of them in that area were Roman Catholics, so I told them where to go, Father White. Anyhow, I did. He complained to me. He said, "Last week, 20 new people registered in the parish." He said, "This Lutheran minister came by and told us how to register in the Catholic parish." Anyhow, Nan sent me down the street. Thank you, Nan Lund. And then there was this county convention of the Rowan County Democrats, and they were trying to figure out who they were going to get to run for which. And it was Valeria Levy, who I didn't know, and she really didn't know me, came up to me and said, "Somebody thought that you could maybe be first vice chair." And I said, "Well, that sounds good. You're the person up front. You're the chairperson. I can back you you up. This is wonderful. I'm retired. And then her son became very ill, and she had to resign. And that's how I became chair here. And then there was that shining example of somebody in my life, shy, quiet, introvert, nurse, public health nurse, who just really got mad when the local jurisdiction in Wisconsin had a fight over whether they would get the repairs to the valve that put the fluorides in the water. And there was this big campaign because it was going to give you big incisor teeth and turn you into communists and everything else under the sun. And so the shy, quiet person, my mother, was out there giving speeches, say, "You stupid people, for heaven's sake, this is for the children, their health, etc." And then that other key woman in my life, who, Dottie, where are you this morning? Okay. She ran for office twice in the last community where I served as pastor, and she won city council twice. She's a better politician than I am, and a much better organizer than I am. And I list all these women and their roles and me getting to where I am today. Today is International Women's Day. Let's give all the women a good hand. So against that kind of background of how we get to where we are, and you know how you got to where you are and how you walked through that door this morning. What's going on in our world today? Well, they're blasting away at Social Security. They're going to try to get rid of the Department of Education. They're chopping away on Medicaid. By the way, 70% of all the people in nursing homes in the country are totally supported by Medicaid. You know, all those people who have to have work requirements in order to get Medicaid. This is crazy stuff, you know. So we need to be informed of that. Refugee resettlement, you know, the Lutheran Social Services in the Carolinas has resettled some Ukrainian families. They've resettled Syrian family, all this kind of stuff. These are people who are vetted. They're the quote legal immigrants, etc. And when I was talking to Ted Goins, who's the executive of that outfit, he said that the federal government has not paid the $2.8 million that they have invested in resettling those immigrants. This is Trump 105 or whatever. That's what he used to do in all his big contracts. He'd, you know, get all these subcontractors and never pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's right out of his book. Okay, and then there's the Riggs Griffin and the world stage with Ukraine. We live in a chaotic world. You know, to get a feeling of it, just imagine, if you feel kind of weird in your stomach, just imagine the walls are going in and out, because we don't know what the guidelines are. The ceiling is going up and down, and the floor is going tipsy on you, okay? That's the world we live in today. And I'm so glad that you're here, so you can see each other, talk with each other, and know that we're not alone in the middle of this madness.
Here, here.
Are we in a position where everything has gone to hell in a handbasket? No. The courts are starting to say, no, Mr. Trump, no, Mr. Trump, no, Mr. Trump. Okay, and of course he will appeal. And we just have to wait and see. The Supreme Court turned him down once this week. You know, so we're just going to have to see what's happening with that. So there's some hope that we have.
But they won't impeach those judges.
Impeach those judges?
That's what I read, yes. They won't.
You know, so That's a strategy in the future for us to certainly keep that kind of thing in mind. The other thing is, there are these national demonstrations going on. If you watch Rachel, she says, and this is going on here, and this is going on there. All these different places all over the country: Kansas, Missouri, Idaho. Okay. Well, how about Salisbury? We had our demonstration here about the Riggs Griffin thing, We had our folks here in front of the courthouse. Common Cause was behind the organizing of that. A rather forceful young woman from Davidson County said, let's have a demonstration to say things are bad about this whole way of trying to throw out all the immigrants that you could get your hands on. And so there were about 100 or 125 folks on a Friday night here in Salisbury in that demonstration. And last Saturday afternoon, we had an additional gathering saying something is really wrong with this whole idea of throwing all immigrants out and deporting them. And so there was a second demonstration on that right here. If you want to say what's going on in the world, it isn't those Democrats there that should have done something. It's us progressive folk here gathering together and saying we can do some stuff here. We can really do some stuff here. Now, as you stop and think about, well, what can I do? What can I do? Over there on the wall, take a look at that old sign there. It's kind of, getting kind of, stronger together, stronger together. Some of you remember that was Hillary's campaign slogan, okay? We are stronger together. Are all of us going to, put up billboards or lead demonstrations? Probably not. But when you stop and think about what can I do? What can I do? In Jane Goodall's book entitled Hope, she tells the story of two guys in China that she ran into. By the way, she goes all over the world talking about hope. It's not just chimpanzees, hope and climate change and all these kinds of things. She ran into these two guys whose village was forever being inundated with floods, as well as they were having trouble, of course, that would be erosion. And then they were having trouble with no trees either. So these two guys, who were friends from childhood, decided to do something about it. Now, the interesting thing about these two guys is the one was totally blind, and the other lost both his arms in an electrical accident. So one guy has two arms and hands and feet, but can't see, and the other guy has no arms and can see. So they decided that what they would do to deal with the problems of erosion is they would plant some trees, but they didn't have any money. So they couldn't buy seed, they couldn't buy seedlings. So the one guy who could see but had no arms showed the other guy who had arms but couldn't see how to cut some shoots off of trees that they could then plant in the ground. And they planted 800, really, on the hillsides and area around the village. The only problem was, because of the dryness of the area, and they couldn't hold the water when it did rain, only 2 of those 800 survived. Well, about that time, the one guy said, I quit. And the other guy said, we can't quit. And they went to work all over again and did the whole process again, but this time they figured out ways to get water to those little shoots that they'd put into the ground. And today, there are 10,000 trees growing on the hillsides around that town. Okay, when you feel like there's nothing that you can do because something is saying, I can't do it, or I don't have the ability, or I'm not going to be able to, or no one will help me. This last week I listened in on a book discussion group that was talking about Jane Goodall's book. And I just listened and took notes, a whole page of notes of these women. So some who said, well, I'm retired now, I can't do much of anything. And at that point, the 91-year-old said, well, I'm not giving up. And then one of the other people said, I'm just too scared. My neighbors all have Trump signs around me, and I'm just too scared. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing, but right now, I'm afraid. Okay, one of the other women said, you know, I'm so inspired by Jane Goodall that I went out and I bought one of the children's books that she wrote, and I'm getting it in the mail tomorrow, and when I go visit my grandson, who's 3, I'm going to read that book to him about hope and climate and paying attention to what's going on around us. Okay, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Jane Goodall finishes her lectures with, together we can, together we will. There are things that we can do. Number 1, to maintain our humanity. Don't give up and give in to the tyranny that's growing around us. Timothy Snyder, in his book on tyranny, says that's the first thing. Don't give up, and don't give it all away to the people who are trying to take over all the stuff. Don't do it. You don't have to give up. You don't have to give in. We can move on ahead together. Goodall writes, hope is a social gift. Hope is a social gift. I know people who come to these meetings because they know that it's safe to be here. It is a social gift to gather here. It's a gift we give to each other. The solidity of being community is extremely important. And we need to recognize that. And to meet some new people, you know. And that's what I meant when I said you were such a wonderful, noisy group to start with, because you were talking to each other. And some of you worked together in projects. And others of you are coming here today saying, you know, what project can I hopefully be part of? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute here. But let's be patient with each other. Let's be patient with each other. We're all at different places. Some of us are ready to go give the speech. And others are just starting to open the door and come back out, and when I mow the lawn, maybe talk to the neighbor who had a Trump sign in their yard. We're all at different places. Let's address those helpless and hopeless feelings or experiences that we have. Let's not be afraid to look at ourselves at the end of the day and say, golly, today I didn't do what I could have because I was just a little too afraid. But as we can say those things to ourselves, and then learn to say them to each other, we are part of a group, we're part of a network. Well, you saw how networking hopped here, and came up there, bounced here, went over there, okay? That's the kind of networking we can do, okay? And that's what we need to be about. There are steps that we can take to live this hope that we would like to have, okay? Hope is action. Hope is survival. Hope is moving ahead. And so what I'm going to do is say that one of the ways in which we as people here, whether you got an official D behind your name or not, we're here because we care. And so what we need to do is come together in smaller groups throughout the county. And here we represent spaces throughout the county. I even met a Stanley person this morning. Well, congratulations, you're here. We've been to Stanley County on occasion. You know, but when we get together and organize in smaller groups, our whole county is, for years, you know, going way back, Gary Fries can probably tell us back to the 19th century when they set up these precincts, and they have funny names. Barnhart Mill. Well, once upon a time, there was probably somebody named Barnhart who had a mill, and that geographic territory was Barnhart Mill. And there's another one that's called Hatter's Shop. That's because at one point somebody out in that area had a shop that made hats. Okay, you know, so they have interesting names of all these places. There are 41 of these things called precincts, geographic territories throughout the county. Okay, all of us live someplace, so you're all in one of those precincts. And what we hope for, and that word hope, is to bring people together in each one of those places so that you can be the representative of hope, the representative of justice, the representative of democracy in that place. That is the dream, that is our hope for. Last year, I think we had about close to 20 of those precincts, quote unquote, organized. To be organized, you have to bring 5 people together, sign a piece of paper and say, we're organized and you're the chairperson. But whoever comes out of that being the chairperson is then on the executive committee of the county party, where we make decisions like which festival are we going to go to, what issue are we going to support, etc. You know, you need a structure. And then one of the pluses of being an organized political party, particularly here in this county, is in order to be on the ballot, you have to say I'm Republican or a Democrat. If you want to say I'm independent, you have to get together thousands of signatures on a petition. It's much simpler to just say I'm a Democrat. Not all Democrats agree on everything. No, don't worry, believe me, but we don't. Okay. But that's part of our strength, all right? Okay, so we need to pull together in forming these groups, and now you probably don't have a clue. Well, some of you might. How many of you know which precinct you are actually a part of? Raise your hand. Well, a fair number. How many of you never heard the word precinct before? Okay, I had no clue when I started around here, 12 years or so ago. Had no idea what these people were talking about, But now I know, and it certainly makes sense. And one of the ways that it can make so much sense is we can gather together to build hope in these different areas, and then come together here. Not everybody's going to have a meeting in your area of 25 people who are all inspired to go do something. It might just be 2 or 3 of you, okay? But what did those 2 guys do in China? 10,000 trees, okay? We can do these kinds of things. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, most of you probably came here this morning with a phone, one of these things. I'd ask you to pull out your phones. Pull out your phones. We're going to figure out where you actually are. And this will be helpful because sometimes you run into people and they say, well, I don't know if I'm registered to vote. I don't know where I'm supposed to go to vote. Let me show you how you do this. You get into the place, whatever it's called, so that you can make like you're going to look something up on Google, okay? But what's that called?
Browser?
Is that a browser? I don't know.
Safari? Safari.
Whatever it is, okay. Go to that thing and enter 5 letters. NC, that's North Carolina. NC, S, that's state, NCSB for Board of Elections, and then an E, NCSBE. Okay, and hit on it. NCSBE. If you feel kind of lost about how to do this, join the club. It's taken me a long time to figure it out. NCSBE.
What's the Wi-Fi, Geoffrey?
What Wi-Fi is did, capital D, small ID. U, capital Y, O-U. Vote, capital V-O-T-E. That is the Wi-Fi here. Did you vote? Okay, capital D, capital Y, capital V. Okay, are we in far enough to get to NCSBE? And there you go to voter lookup. If you're having difficulty, help each other. If you're really lost, raise your hand. You know, I've got Mackenzie here and Andy here, and
It's also really easy just to Google voter search, and it comes up that way.
okay, are you to the place where it says name?
No, I'm gonna have to tell you. You didn't tell me to do
You
it.
said voter, oh, you want.
Voter lookup.
search? Is that
Voter
what you
lookup
said? Voter search.
or voter search.
Voter search, okay.
Criteria.
And when it gets to, it says where it asks for your name under criteria, put in your first name, the name that you have when you are registered to vote, and then your last name. Don't worry about when you were born and all that kind of stuff. Just put in Rowan County. Where it says county, hit county, and all the counties will come up. Scroll to Rowan. That will tell you when it comes up. It says, "Oh, I'm a registered voter here." Okay. And then you scroll down to jurisdictions.
You gotta tap on yourself. Are you still gonna tap on yourself?
And you can, the reason why we're doing this is you're going to wind up being in the precinct or knowing which precinct is yours, and then the precinct chair who is here you can meet and say, "Oh, I know that person," and that person as precinct chair will pick up their packet on how to go about organizing the precinct. This is step by step for you to be connected in your area.
Well, after you get your name, what do you do?
Hit it. When your name comes up in blue, hit your blue name. And
Did you vote for and then what is it you want? I just put sometimes.
You might know
job already. I know.
So that's Milford Hills. Okay, but I mean, like, he knows where he votes. Geoffrey, do you know what makes it easier for you to find?
Well, I know. I knew that before.
I said I didn't know it was a part of all these different districts. House, Senate, Judge.
It's very fast. Maybe they update.
Okay, can we come back together, please? We're back together. Let's focus back, please. Now, okay, now, will all the people who are here, who are currently chairpersons or vice chair or secretary of a precinct, please stand up. Okay. Now, give them a hand. Now, as we conclude here today, precinct chairs, your packets of how to organize, plus the list of names that we've been able to compile at this point, are over here. So precinct chairs don't leave without your packet. Adrian, where are you? Adrian, come on over so that you're here by the stack. Adrian Maldonado will be passing these out and writing down your name beside your precinct. Okay, so that we know who's here and which precinct packets are out. Now, if you don't know who your precinct chair is, there may not be one in your area, please come and see me, and we will put together an organization for your territory, okay? You're not going to walk out of here today without something to do, because action is a hope word. Hope means action as well. And what do you do as you come together? Well, number one, you support each other. You say, thank God I found another Democrat out here in Hatter's shop. I didn't know there were any Democrats out here in Bradshaw. Okay? These are all these different areas. These are far out, you know, there are two of you out in Morgan too. Did you know that, Gail? There are two of you out in Morgan too. They're on the list. Okay? You and Meg. All right. So we have the opportunity to pull this together, to be supportive of one another. And what are the things that you can do? You can see to it that letters get written, phone calls get made, you know, people are aware of, you know, what's going on, you know, to be part of the demonstrations, personal contacts, tell stories to each other, support one another, make donations. Maybe you feel that you can't get out and do something, but you can write a check or a PayPal or whatever means you use, do that. Attend boards, councils, etc. There are things that we can do. And as we do them, we live hope. Hope is something more than just this necklace thing that I'm wearing. Hope is how we live. Sometimes we stumble, yes. We will make mistakes, yeah. There are times that we will miss opportunities, of course. But we are gathered here to be a people of hope in Rowan County, yes, in all these different specific places as well. So before you leave, you know, if you know your precinct, on the sign-in sheets, Teresa, you've got the sign-in sheets there? Okay, as you're leaving, write your precinct alongside your name on the sign-in sheets. That way, as we organize that area, we'll know that we can be in touch with you. Okay? Yes.
I'm trying, anyone that's in, Delta Hill County, I am the vice chair, and we have the meeting at, Oak Park.
Right. We will put all this information out through email, etc. And as I know the places where you're meeting and tell me when and where you're meeting, we'll be advertising that and getting that out through what you signed in for here today, as well as other people who've signed up in the last year. But this is our land. This is my land. This is your land. Before you leave, my cohort in music is going to come before she goes home to take care of her husband.
Geoffrey, I know we're short on time, but one thing, I know my precinct by where I vote. I vote at City Park. Now I know, thank you to my precinct chair, Tracy Romack, that's called North Ward. So your precinct name is not the place you vote. Okay? But that's how you can kind of start putting those two together. If you see someone in their precinct chair, you can say, where's your voting site? And you'll go, okay, that's not me.
Okay. If you have questions about all of this, just come and see me so we can deal personally with your particular connection. And Adrian will be standing over here where all the chairs are lined up for precinct chairs to get your packets. And let's remember that this land is your land. So let's pick up that song sheet in front of you and get ready to march. Stand up, let's go.
Okay.
Land is your land, this land is my land, from California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And as I was walking that riven-up highway, I saw above me that in the skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. And all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. When the sun came shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifting, a voice was chanting. This land was made for you and me. Verse 1. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Okay, how many are going to write a letter this week to your congressman?
You made a postcard.
Going to write a letter, a postcard. How are you going to make phone calls this week? Phone calls to the congressman, to the senators. Okay, and don't give up and don't give in. We can and we will.